All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call you the meeting to order, November 12th, Finance Committee meeting. I need a motion to approve the agenda, please.
Motion approved.
Have a motion, need a second? Got all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, need to approve the minutes from our last meeting back in August.
So moved.
Motion, second, all approved? Aye. Okay. All right, action items. Item A, iPad device refresh. Ms. McLam.
Yes, so in your packet, you had a memo regarding the K2 iPad purchase. We're doing a device refresh. We've done an assessment of the iPad needs based on the current enrollment in grades K2 district-wide at a 3-to-1 device to student ratio. That would take 2,200 iPads. The cost is approximately $850,000. We will use the district technology fees to cover that cost. So we're seeking approval for that purchase.
Any questions from the committee members? If not, I'll need a motion to recommend approval to the full board.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Item B, finance and HR software. Oh boy, this should be good.
Yes. So as you all will recall, we have been going down a modernization path for quite some time now. We did pause on our original implementation and have found additional options in the state that are eligible and would like to get approval to move forward with a more comprehensive package. There is going to be an implementation cost that the district will cover. It is not part of the original modernization project, but our current software vendor expense that we pay for our current SunPack software is basically going to be replaced with this software. So it will be a savings to the district just to implement one platform. So we're seeking approval for us to move forward with the new HR finance software.
And the vendor has assured you that whatever information you need to bridge from an old system into a new system will actually work?
Yes, the vendor that is that we are going to is partnered with our current software vendor. So the majority of our data is payroll data, which is very complicated data and has all the history from the very beginning. And they will bridge that and pull all that information in for us.
Does that,
Did we know of any other districts that are using this?
Yes. So as opposed to the previous time, there are about 5 districts currently going in different phases. There are 2, I think, on it currently. There's another 3 scheduled to go in January and several more that are going when we anticipate going live in July.
just for those of you out there, the reason we're being kind of sarcastic about this subject item is Ms. McLam's department has struggled for, what was it, 3 years with a system that didn't work. And so now we're hoping to, we anticipate moving to a system that does and encompasses HR.
Yeah.
So we hope to make everybody's life a little easier.
We did do a site visit as well. We went to Ashboro to see the system in action and review some of their processes, and have been in communication with several other districts that are in the implementation phase right now just to get more feedback. Rowan Salisbury is one as well in our region that is currently going to be going live in January. They had a meeting today and said that things are going very well with this implementation, as opposed to others that we have attempted in the past.
How long does it take to actually implement from when we tell them go to actually have it up and be able to use it?
This will go much quicker than our previous. It took us about 1.5 years to do data conversion on the Munis software just to do the accounting piece. This, because we have the bridge in the data conversion with our current vendor, we should be able to be up and running, like I said, in July. Payroll, HR, and accounting.
Any other questions?
So this was a state recommended program, right? What we had attempted to implement?
The first one, there were only 2 platforms that were approved at the state level for implementation that they would fund. And that was Munis was one of those state approved. Since that time, there have been other vendors that have come into the marketplace and have been able to meet the state guidelines.
Okay.
And all the testing, the communication, and the link that we need with DPI. So now we have different options. They just do not fund the implementation piece. That's why we would have to pay for that ourselves.
Were we the only one that weren't successful in the implementation, or has that been across the board?
I guess it depends on how you define successful. There are 2 districts currently, Swain County and New Hanover, that are fully implemented, or I don't think they have the HR side of it, but they are implemented on Munis. They have had a lot of staff turnover in their finance office. Every little bit, every few weeks or every few months, we see more people. So they've had almost a complete turnover in their finance office. So I don't know.
Of this, like as a result of the
I think some, yes.
challenges. Okay. I mean, this wasn't a UCPS data issue. Like, are there standards that all school districts have with regards to data and retention?
There are standards that we have to meet to be able to send our files to DPI. We're currently presented with some challenges right now getting data to DPI because they're trying to modernize at this point. And so some of that data feed has been difficult to get on the older platforms to get the format that they need at DPI as they try to modernize some of their systems.
So I'm sorry,
We've done this a little backwards, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
think DPI and at the state level should have done some modernizing before we went down the path. So now there are multiple vendors that are trying to get data feeds to the state in the midst of them trying to modernize their systems as well. It's a lot.
I mean, I could sit here and ask
More fun ahead.
questions for
I know you can.
hours.
I know you can.
So, I mean, have we like sat back and reflected? What's our
Yes.
lessons learned? How do we make sure they're not repeatable? All that
Yes.
stuff.
Yes. Yes.
We feel confident with the new vendor that they're going to be successful.
Yes.
Do we have an out clause?
Do
If
we have a
we're not-
guarantee? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that with the current environment, with us modernizing and the state modernizing, we are not going to be allowed to run on an AS400. So HRMS and all the HR systems that we have, plus our finance system, will no longer be supported. So we have to do something.
If I could ask, like, how engaged is Mr. Parker in this whole implementation?
When it comes to the platform and the management of how we're going to have to transition, he has been involved in our discussions as well as the technical aspects of what's required to make all this work. But until we get this contract, like, we haven't gotten, I mean, we've gotten into it, but we haven't gotten into the depths of it until we get through this part.
So what's the next step?
Once we have a signed contract, we will begin the data conversion process. Trying to get the data out of Munis is going to probably be the biggest challenge. We've been on Munis for, this is 3.5 years. And so that's going to be the part that's the most difficult.
Like, have we got any kind of assurance from the vendor that
Yes,
they
they-
can do it?
Yes. We've been
Okay.
talking about that. They said that will be the part that's the most time consuming.
Time consuming. You said
yes.
difficult.
Well,
They can
it's
do it. It's
difficult
just
to
going to take
get.
time.
Yes, it's
Okay.
going to be difficult for us to be able to manage all of the day-to-day operations as well as doing some of this. It's just going to be a time strain.
Do you have resources dedicated to this at a project level, or is it literally just your finance staff?
Yes.
How do we get some, Drew? This
Well,
is
we've
a
talked,
question
I was
for
going
you.
to say, we've talked a little bit about a project manager. And we didn't have a project manager on the Munis conversion. Not technically, we used our own staff to do that.
Mhm.
My team and I have had some conversations about that as well. And I think with the support that we have from the current vendor we have with Sunpack, which is Syllogist, and moving to the new platform, this the Syllogist ERP, that we feel confident that we can do this with their support and guidance without having a separate project manager.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't they providing some boots on the ground during
Yeah.
this conversion process as well?
Yeah, part of the contract will include a dedicated project manager with the current vendor.
Which we did not have before.
Really?
That's correct.
It was a challenge. But I think one of the biggest advantages on this with working with our current vendor is they understand North Carolina. I think one of the biggest things we had being at the very beginning of the project with Munis is that they had no idea how school districts operate in North Carolina. At least with our current vendor, they've been operating in North Carolina for 30 years. They understand the challenges, what to meet the DPI requirements, the communication that we have to have, the link we have to get reports to them. They understand that piece of it.
All right. So currently we're paying what? The licensing fee of
We're paying,
309, is that a wash?
that will be a wash, but we are paying for Munis as well. So we're paying about 600 plus for our
I assume
software.
that's not in the budget, right?
We planned for that when we did it. We knew we would have we'd have some crossover. So we budgeted for that several years ago and hoping that we could at some point recover those monies that we put to be able to be on both systems at one time. We just hadn't got to that point yet. So we budgeted for it when we embarked on this project.
Have we not
3
fully
years ago.
converted over to Munis?
No,
So we've been, okay.
No.
So we've been,
we've been on
And we're
on
not paying
multiple
for both?
systems. We are paying for both. Yes, for multiple years.
so now we'll have 3 that we're paying for?
No, we will have one that we will be
But-
paying for.
For a period of time, we're going to have 3?
No. The 309 will be a wash with our current Sunpack software. We will not pay that in addition to Munis. We will have to pay till the end of this school year, and then that will be canceled, or we will no longer have that expense, which is a little over 300,000.
All right. Sorry, let me go back and rephrase my initial question.
Okay.
So are we currently operating on 2 systems?
Yes.
So we're paying 2 fees.
Yes.
We are now going to start paying a 3rd fee. Is this only after implementation is done that our licensing fee kicks in?
Yes.
Okay. So once implementation is done, Munis will go away?
Yes.
And then once we fully convert from our, was it Sunpack?
Yes.
Then we'll
All
just
that
be
will
on the
happen at one time. In July, it will all happen at one time. We will no longer have HRMS. We will not have Sunpack, and we will not have Munis.
And we won't have the associated costs with those.
Correct.
So how are we getting the funding for the implementation fee?
The 160. They're going to work with us to be able to get that. You'll see in the budget resolution, I have had to budget some fund balance. Some of that will be part of how we pay for it.
You said they're going to work with us. The vendor's going to?
But because we no longer have access to any of the state funds. We pretty much spent all of that on the Munis conversion, and they won't let you use any remaining funds on any other platforms.
And is there any, can we go back after the vendor for anything? Breach of contract?
We've looked at that contract numerous times.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like we're,
I'm kind of in a
Stuck
rock and
with the-
I know
this is the
we're in
best
a rock
option?
between a rock and a hard place right now.
yeah.
So
But you see a path forward
I do.
and you have seen it in action
I have.
and it meets the needs of the district
Yes.
for both HR and finance.
Yes.
Are we coming off of an HR system as well, or is that all on Sunpack right now?
They don't have the applicant piece. It's separate. We use Frontline for some pieces of the HR process for hiring. That will become part of this system for
Are
position
we going to come out of
control.
this with a budget save?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay,
It's my goal.
great.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Just the 160,000 that we've got to use. I have some of it within my own budget, but I will have over 300,000 in savings when we get to the end of this year for going into 25, 26 that we can reallocate if we need to.
Because of licensing fees we're not having to pay.
So we have to come up with a little extra up front, but in the long run, we save a
Correct.
lot.
Correct.
And if we don't hit a July 25 date, is the vendor on the hook for anything?
We won't have I can't not hit the July 2025 date because if we start July on Munis, I have to pay another year.
We're not doing
And we're not doing that.
Okay. So are you confident that we're going to hit the July 2025
Yes.
date? And you don't need anything in order to get that?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, look for a motion to recommend to the full board.
So moved.
Motion, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Budget resolution. Ms. McLean?
Okay. I've touched on just a little bit of what we just discussed. As you will see, the budget resolution, we've got our state funds as normal on page 1. Page 2 is our local funds. You'll see $133 million in local appropriations. That does include some fund balance that I just mentioned. We normally build our budget every year somewhere around $2 million in fund balance. We have some carryovers from the prior year encumbrances, which is normally included in that number. Next page is our federal funds. You'll see federal has dropped quite significantly because we no longer have ESSER dollars included in that, which was there for quite some time. So it's a little over $22 million for federal. Our capital outlay, that does include bond proceeds, which is $137,651,000, which is our total with our current year, any carryover funds plus bond proceeds. School nutrition, you'll see 22 million. Their operating has increased some because of cost of food. Plus, you'll see the school after school care. That's a tuition-based program, which is right at $2.9 million. And then our special revenue fund, which is where we run all of our local grants and other non-general K-12 appropriations through, which is a little over 11 million. So our total 24-25 budget is 628,714,811.
Could you say that number again?
628,714,811.
Questions? Questions from the committee? If no questions, I'll look for a motion to recommend to the full board. Have a motion?
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All righty. That takes care of our action items. Next meeting to be determined. And so I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are down. Thank you.